The first thing Lila understood before the cold air, before the burn of humiliation, before the heavy golden doors slammed behind her was that her sister had never intended to return. She'd run. And Lila, the rejected Omega everyone in their township pitied in hushed tones, was now standing in silk that wasn't hers, in a palace she'd never been meant to enter, preparing to marry a king everyone feared, one who hadn't stood unaided in almost 2 years. The guards didn't speak as they guided her down the gleaming marble hall lit with torches that flickered like wary eyes. Her steps felt too loud, too certain of a fate she wanted to escape but couldn't outrun. Each footfall echoed the same truth. Nora left you, and now you must take her place. 1,000 thoughts burst into Lila's mind, panic, disbelief, anger that tangled with grief, but the one that stung the deepest was quieter than all of them. Her parents had known. They'd known Nora planned to disappear, and instead of stopping her, they'd shoved Lila forward like a spare coin. A sacrifice no one would miss. The heavy doors to the throne room groaned open. Her breath caught. King Alistair. Varen sat in his specially forged obsidian wheelchair, carved like a dark crown around him. His hair was black as an unforgiving night, his jaw sharp enough to cut through doubt, his expression unreadable. Rumor claimed the accident that shattered his leg and damaged his spine had also shattered his soul. Some whispered he could no longer shift without terrible pain. An alpha king trapped in human vulnerability. Others whispered he refused to try. But none of the stories mentioned his eyes, storm gray, and so startlingly alive they nearly forced Lila to look away. They held her like a question he was already certain she couldn't answer. You're not Nora. His voice didn't rise. Didn't need to? No, she whispered, hands trembling at her sides. I'm Lila. Why are you here, Lila? Because I'm the daughter they didn't choose. Because no one else would dare stand before you. Because they traded me like a pawn. She left, Lila forced out. They told me it had to be fulfilled. The treaty, the promise. Her lips trembled. So they brought me. A long taut silence stretched between them. Alistair's grip tightened on the wheel rim. Pain flickered through his expression so fast she barely caught it before it hardened back into steel. Then this marriage, he said, is a deception. She swallowed. I didn't want to deceive you. Another silence, this one colder. Finally, he turned slightly, the movement stiff, painful. The wedding proceeds in 1 hour. Lila's lungs refused to work. But you don't even know me. And you were not given a choice, he replied. Neither was I. The guards stepped forward, but Alistair raised a hand. His gaze returned to her. Storm gray with something she couldn't name. Since the world has already decided our fate, he said quietly, let us see if we can carry it with dignity. The wedding felt like watching someone else's nightmare from inside their body. Gold drapes, somber music, courtiers whispering behind jeweled hands, an Omega bride trembling beside a king who didn't stand to greet her. Can't stand? They whispered, broken, weakened, cursed. Yet every time Lila dared glance toward him, she found his eyes not judging, not cruel, but calculating in a way that suggested he was watching her as closely as they watched him. Afterward, when the palace emptied and the torches dimmed, Lila was escorted to the king's private quarters. 2 guards wheeled him inside, then left without bowing. The fire cast warm light over everything except the icy space between them. You're free to sleep in the adjoining room, Alistair said, voice measured. This union is political. Your comfort will be respected. Lila nodded stiffly, her fingers twisting in her skirt. Thank you. He looked at her for a long moment, his gaze strangely unreadable. I don't know what you've been told about me, but I am not the monster half the kingdoms whisper about. And the other half, she asked before she could stop herself. A surprising chuckle dry, short escaped him. They whisper worse. Heat rose in her cheeks, and to her own bewilderment, the knot in her chest loosened slightly. She crossed to the door, pausing with her hand on the handle. I don't want to be your enemy, she said softly. Good, he murmured, because I'm too tired for more enemies. Days passed, each one weaving a delicate thread between them. Lila noticed the things no one else seemed to. That Alistair always shifted his weight away from his left side as if shielding it. That he masked grimaces with dry humor. That the palace physicians treated him with a kind of distant fear. She also learned he was lonely. Painfully, unmistakably lonely. He worked from dawn until the stars surfaced, ruling a kingdom that doubted his strength. And though he never asked, Lila began assisting, bringing reports, reading letters aloud when his back seized, sitting with him in silent companionship. Sometimes, when his pain grew sharp, his hand would tremble near the wheel rim, and though she never touched him, she hovered close enough that her presence seemed to steady him. One evening, as she arranged scrolls on his desk, he said without looking up, "You're gentle with your words." Lila blinked. "Is that unusual?" For me. He paused. "Yes." She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I don't think gentleness should be unusual." His eyes lifted slowly, settling on her like a hand pressed over her heartbeat. "It is more powerful than you know." Something inside her tightened, warm and dangerous. They spoke late into the night. And the next. And the next. Slowly, the cold boundary between them thawed into a fragile, flickering warmth. Not trust, not yet, but something real enough to make Lila's chest ache when she thought of how their marriage had started. One night, when the fire burned low, Alistair braced his hands on the wheels. "Walk with me," he said. She blinked. "But you outside," he clarified. "I can manage the chair." She followed him into the moonlit garden, pushing open the glass doors so he could wheel through. The scent of night roses wrapped around them, soft and intoxicating. He moved slower than usual, each push measured. She matched his pace. "You're quiet tonight," he said. "I was thinking, about, she hesitated. "Do you hate that it was me? That I wasn't the bride you were promised?" His hand stilled on the wheels. "No," he said firmly, "but I hate that the world has taught you to assume you're unwanted." Her breath caught. He turned his face slightly toward her. "You are strong, Lila. Stronger than you've been led to believe." Emotion surged up her throat, fierce and fragile. She looked away, blinking fast. "Thank you." She whispered. The silence that followed was charged, not empty, not awkward, but alive, like a storm about to break. Their growing closeness didn't go unnoticed. Courtiers whispered that the king smiled more, that the Omega bride had tamed the broken Alpha, that perhaps the marriage was becoming something real. But others, those with ambition sharpened like knives, watched with hungry eyes. One afternoon, as Leela helped Alistair stretch his weakened leg, he hissed in pain, gripping the armrest. She froze. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "It's not you." He managed. Her instinct urged her closer, and before she could think better of it, her hand rested lightly on his thigh, not intimate, just steady, grounding. His breath slowed. Her hand remained. His gaze flicked down to it, then up to her face. The air thickened. Something deep flickered in his eyes. Want, need. Restraint tangled with longing, and her pulse kicked hard enough to shake her. She pulled back abruptly. "I'll get water." He nodded once, jaw tight. But after that day, something unspoken shifted. Touches lingered, glances burned. Conversations slipped into vulnerable territory neither dared explore too openly. The slow burn warmth grew into something intoxicating, dangerously close to tender, frighteningly close to necessary. The twist arrived on a storm-slashed night. Leela had gone to deliver a letter to Alistair's War Council chamber. She was halfway down the corridor when she heard voices, her name spoken with venom. She's softening him, a noblewoman hissed. "If the king rises again, fully, we lose leverage." And if the Omega produces an heir, a deep voice added, "we lose everything." A thud, a scrape of steel. "She must be removed," someone growled. Lila pressed herself against the wall, heart pounding, her breath turned to shards. "Removed," her chest squeezed with icy dread. She slipped away silently, her mind racing. Alistair had enemies, but that she, harmless and replaced, had become a threat. Her stomach twisted. She didn't sleep. At dawn, she went to him. Alistair glanced up from his desk as she entered, his expression softening instantly. "You didn't wake me last night. I waited." She swallowed hard. "Alistair, we need to talk." Something in her tone darkened his eyes. "What's happened?" She told him, every word, every threat, every whisper dripping with malice. The storm building in his expression nearly stole her breath. "They threatened you." His hands clenched the wheels. "Who?" "I don't know their names," she said, voice shaking. "But they want me gone. Because of us." The fury in his gaze simmered into something far heavier. He wheeled toward her, stopping inches away. Asterisk Lila, he said, voice low but steady. Listen to me. You are not going anywhere. No one will touch you. No one will harm you. Do you understand? Asterisk her eyes stung. But what if staying puts you in danger? Asterisk, it doesn't matter. It matters to me, she whispered. Something broke inside him at those words. She saw it, felt it. His jaw flexed. His breath faltered. He reached for her hand. The first intentional touch he'd ever offered. Asterisk his fingers laced with hers. Warm and real and devastating. I will not lose you, he said. Slowly, he lifted her hand, pressing it to his chest above his heart, where the steady beat thundered beneath her palm. That night, guards doubled. The palace locked its gates, and Lila slept in Alistair's room, at his insistence. Asterisk at first, she curled atop the couch, heart aching with the closeness of him, but sometime near dawn, when pain racked his leg and he groaned softly, she rose and crossed to him. Asterisk he looked up, exhausted, vulnerable, nothing like the feared king the world described. Asterisk, let me help, she whispered. He nodded. She eased beside him, careful not to jostle him. His breath warmed her shoulder. Slowly, hesitantly, his head lowered against her. Her pulse trembled. He didn't sleep for a while. She felt every breath, every shift, and when his hand found hers beneath the blankets, they both froze. Asterisk, but neither pulled away. Weeks passed. Asterisk plots were uncovered. Conspirators arrested. The kingdom realized the king was not weakened by love, he was strengthened by it. And something remarkable began happening. Alistair pushed himself harder through physical therapy, through agonizing exercises, not to prove himself to doubters, to stand for her. 3 months after the threats, he asked Leela to meet him in the garden at sunrise. She walked through the dew-wet grass, heart fluttering as she spotted him. He wasn't in his wheelchair. He stood braced on a carved wooden cane, breath sharp but victorious. Asterisk, Leela gasped, hand flying to her mouth. I'm standing, he finished hoarsely. I wanted you to see. Asterisk she moved toward him slowly, afraid to break the fragile miracle. Tears blurred her vision. Alistair, this is incredible. Asterisk, it's because of you, he said. You gave me a reason to rise again. Asterisk she shook her head, stepping close enough that their breaths mingled. No. You did this. You chose this. Asterisk, his fingers brushed her cheek. Feathersoft, I chose you. Her heart broke open like sunrise. And when he kissed her, slow, reverent, awakening something deep and certain inside her, didn't feel like a beginning. It felt like finally. Asterisk. Their bond deepened, no longer quiet, no longer tentative. Leela became a queen, not by title but by presence, by compassion, by strength. And Alistair, no longer trapped in the shadows of his injury, slowly regained the confidence of an alpha king. Asterisk, months later, when the council gathered in the gardens, Alistair stood fully, steadily before the kingdom, Lila's hand in his. Asterisk, she was never the sister meant for me, he announced. She is the woman destined for me. Leela's heart swelled as the crowd erupted in applause. But the true moment, the one she'd treasure long after the cheers faded, came later. In the quiet of their chamber, Alistair stood behind her, arms wrapped firmly around her waist, chin resting on her shoulder. You healed me, he murmured. She turned, resting her forehead against his. No, we healed each other. Asterisk he smiled, soft, real, the kind of smile he'd saved only for her. Asterisk then, let's never stop. Asterisk when he kissed her again, slow and warm and full of the promise neither of them had dared to imagine months ago. She knew something with absolute certainty. This was not a marriage of duty. It was a love forged from broken pieces, rebuilt, stronger than fate itself, and it was theirs, forever.